We march as one. We fight as lions. We are the spear of Dahomey.
Imagine a kingdom where women were not merely wives or mothers, but the elite spine of the army, the king's most trusted advisors, and the most feared warriors in West Africa. This is not a legend, but the true story of the Agojie, the all-female regiment of the Kingdom of Dahomey. Their name, given to them by terrified Europeans, was the Dahomey Amazons, a direct comparison to the mythical warrior women of ancient Greece. For 2 centuries, their existence challenged everything the world thought it knew about gender, power, and warfare. They fought with a discipline and ferocity that made empires hesitate, and their legacy forces us to ask one of history's most difficult questions. How do we honor the image of powerful heroes when their real story is shadowed by moral complexity? Their tale is one of extraordinary female empowerment, forged within a kingdom whose wealth was built on the foundation of brutal conquest and the Atlantic slave trade. Back in the 17th century, the Kingdom of Dahomey was rising in what is now modern-day Benin. This was a society organized for war, dedicated to expansion, and locked in constant struggle with powerful neighbors like the Oyo Empire. It was a time of shifting sands and immense violence, and the story of the Agojie begins not with a single battle, but with a surprising and pragmatic shift in thinking within the Dahomean royal court. As endless conflict drained the kingdom of its men, the kings of Dahomey faced a stark choice: limit their ambitions or look to a new source of warriors. They chose the latter, and they looked to their women. The origins of the Agojie are wrapped in a bit of mystery, with oral tradition pointing to 2 possible founders. Some accounts credit King Huigbaja, who reigned in the mid-1700s, with first organizing groups of elite women elephant hunters called the Gebeto. Others point to his daughter, Queen Hongbe, who came to power in the early 18th century and is said to have established a formidable female palace guard. A towering statue of Queen Hongbe erected in Benin in recent years speaks to her enduring place in this origin story. Regardless of which figure truly began it, this radical idea, an army of women, took root. These early female fighters were called Mino, meaning our mothers in the Fon language, a title of deep respect from their male counterparts in the army. They were also known as Ahosi, or king's wives, a legal status that bound them directly to the monarch and forbade them from marital relationships or bearing children with any other man, dedicating their lives entirely to the state. The true architect of the Agojie as a world-shaking military force was King Gezo, who seized the throne in 1818. Gezo was a visionary and a ruthless pragmatist who saw in the existing core of female warriors an unparalleled opportunity. He institutionalized them, expanding their ranks from a few hundred to an astonishing 6,000 fighters, who at their peak made up over a third of the entire Dahomey army. Under Gezo, the Agojie were transformed from a royal guard into the sharp tip of Dahomey's spear. He formalized their recruitment, drawing girls from across society. Some joined voluntarily, seeking a life of honor and status beyond traditional roles. Others were conscripted, rebellious girls whose families could not control them, or captives taken from conquered villages. One European observer noted that women were sometimes enlisted if their husbands or fathers complained about their behavior to the king. For many, it was a path to power and wealth unavailable anywhere else in the world at that time. They lived in the royal palace in a unique women-dominated quarter, served by enslaved attendants and enjoying privileges like tobacco and alcohol. In the stratified world of the king's many wives, the Agojie were considered his third-class wives, meaning their bond was ceremonial and political, not romantic. They were married to the kingdom itself. Their existence was a direct reflection of a society that, for its time, had remarkably inclusive gender norms, where women participated in farming, trading, and government. The king's own council was gender-balanced, with key ministerial positions held by both a man and a woman. The Agojie were not an isolated anomaly, but the most extreme expression of a culture that expected strength from all its people. Becoming an Agojie meant shedding one's former self through a trial of pain and discipline that was nearly unimaginable. Their training was designed to strip away fear, hesitation, and any lingering softness. Recruits, some as young as 8 or 10 years old, were put through relentless physical conditioning. They learned survival skills, mastery of weapons from muskets and rifles to razor-sharp blades, and most of all, an absolute indifference to suffering and death. One of their most infamous exercises involved storming over towering barriers made of acacia thorns. The women who crossed them without flinching were celebrated and honored. Their training in brutality was not theoretical. They were forced to participate in executions to harden their spirits. The regiments were highly specialized, divided into distinct groups. There were huntresses, riflewomen, razor women who wielded curved blades, archers, and gunners. Their battle chants reveal the psychological transformation they underwent. One translated chant declares, "As the blacksmith takes an iron bar and by fire changes its fashion, so have we changed our nature. We are no longer women, we are men." They were forging themselves into a new kind of human being, the ultimate warrior. On the battlefield, the Agojie were a terrifying and effective force, the vanguard of Dahomey's military for nearly 2 centuries. They fought in numerous conflicts against neighboring African kingdoms, from the defeat of Savi in 1727 to prolonged wars with the Egba city-state of Abeokuta. Their reputation for prodigious bravery preceded them, and European visitors consistently noted they were often more courageous and effective than the male soldiers. Their tactics leveraged surprise and shock. They would raid villages under cover of darkness, taking captives and beheading resistors on the spot, sometimes returning the heads to their king as trophies. In one mid-19th century battle to capture the fortress of the Mahi, the Agojie played a crucial role. Their discipline was absolute. To retreat without orders was punishable by death. This fearsome prowess, however, served a grim economic engine. Dahomey was a militaristic state, and its wars were often slave raids. The kingdom had risen to become one of the largest exporters of enslaved Africans in West Africa, especially after conquering the coastal port of Ouidah in 1727. Historians estimate nearly 1 million people were shipped from Ouidah to the Americas. The Agojie were central to this terrible business. Their annual campaigns conquered villages and rounded up captives. They helped suppress rebellions among the enslaved and maintained the system that fueled the kingdom's wealth. King Gezo himself bluntly called the slave trade the source and the glory of his people's wealth. The Agojie, therefore, stood in a tragic paradox. They were symbols of female power and autonomy, yet they were also key enforcers in a system that stripped power and autonomy from countless others. Their story forces us to sit with this uncomfortable duality. The final, defining conflict of the Agojie was not with a neighboring African kingdom, but with a European colonial power seeking to swallow their homeland whole. This was the confrontation with France in the late 19th century. By the 1890s, under King Behanzin, the kingdom was fighting for its very existence in the Franco-Dahomean Wars. The French military, for all its technological superiority, was utterly shocked by the Agojie. Accustomed to colonial warfare against male soldiers, the French troops found themselves facing an enemy that defied all their prejudices. In early skirmishes, some Frenchmen reportedly lowered their weapons, refusing on principle to fight women, a hesitation the Agojie exploited with lethal efficiency. The French soon learned to fear them, with soldiers of the Foreign Legion later writing of their incredible courage and audacity. In the First Franco-Dahomean War, the Agojie fought fiercely in battles like the one at Cotonou, charging French lines in deadly hand-to-hand combat. But courage could not stop bullets forever. The Second Franco-Dahomean War spelled their doom. The French had longer bayonets and more advanced rifles. At the Battle of Agojie in October 1892, the military difference became a slaughter. In a matter of hours, the French bayonets cut down the Agojie. The Dahomey forces lost over 400 of their female warriors, while the French lost only 6 soldiers. It was a devastating, one-sided massacre that broke the backbone of Dahomey's resistance. By 1894, the kingdom was a French protectorate, and the Agojie were officially disbanded. Their world had ended. Oral tradition hints at a shadowy afterlife for some, whispering that a few remained secretly in Dahomey to assassinate French officers or disguised themselves as wives to protect the exiled royal family. But for the institution itself, the sun had set.